Welcome to the Pacific Peoples Partnership podcast for February 21st. I'm Kirk Schwartz. I'm the podcast coordinator here at Pacific Peoples Partnership. On today's podcast, we have two stories for you. First up is Asia Sherlock. She's an international development intern. Then we have the cultural voice of Chris Cook. Chris is the traditional potlatch chief of the Nogamis tribe of the Kwakiutl Nation in Alert Bay on the northern tip of Vancouver Island. Today you will hear the first part of a two-part story about the cultural and ecological importance of the salmon to his people. Now, here is our profile of Asia.
We have Asia Sherlock, who is a student of child and youth care at the University of Victoria. Her interests lie in arts, cultural relations, and youth empowerment. She recently returned from a 6-month international youth internship program in Zambia with the Victoria International Development Education Association, also known as VADEA.
Just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's such an honor to sit with these exceptional panelists, especially as an intern. A millennial intern, forgive me. Yes, as you already know, I'm from VIDEA. Most of the work VIDEA engages in is, I would say, gender equality. And like all of our panelists have already echoed, I think that all of the goals really intertwine together. So you can't fix one without fixing another. But gender equality is definitely a running theme in all of our partner organizations in Eastern and Southern Africa that we work with. All those organizations work directly to empower women and girls. And often they do that through working with men as well, and it's very community-based. And VIDEA works as allies in a supportive role to these organizations and their work. And we really believe that gender equality is a cross-cutting issue, and it's something that exists in all countries. So when you work with gender equality or inequality, you're really working to support economic development and other positive initiatives like that. So
I have always had a passion for working with other cultures and learning from other cultures. I don't really know where that started from. It's just something I've always really loved to do. I really found that out though when I did the Indigenous Studies program at Camosun College, and from that I knew that I wanted to work in community development in some capacity, especially with children and youth. But when I found out last year about the internship program that VIDEA does, I signed up immediately because I thought it sounded amazing, primarily because they come from a human rights-based approach to development, and I think that's important because it's really about making connections with partner organizations and having them direct us and how we can support them.
You know, Zambians, even if they have no formal education, and most of them do, like they understand the frameworks that they're working in, and they know what they're doing. You know, they're intelligent. I'm learning from them. I also think that it is problematic. Like being a Westerner, being a white person, going into communities and working, it is problematic. And I think that any development work is by nature, but there's positive ways to do it, and a lot of that is just about relationships and partnerships and supporting initiatives of the people that you're working with.
John was talking a lot about millennials tonight because he was sitting next to me, so we had a nice millennial discussion, and he really believes in my generation, which I think is actually quite amazing. And I think something that he pointed out is that the millennial generation is much more informed about human rights and much more engaged in that. And I think, I know for myself, that really came from being taught by Indigenous peoples. And I find Canadian Indigenous peoples have probably most likely informed most millennials about how to do respectful community work that's based in allyship and based in building relationships, and all of that language, it's very much from Indigenous scholars and educators.
Videa works from a strong human rights-based approach to development, so we work as allies. And as someone who wasn't from the community I was working with in Zambia, just like when I've worked with Indigenous communities here, I am completely there to learn. I'm just there to learn and be a part. So allyship, definitely, was I think number one. Also learning from discomfort, because every day can be slightly uncomfortable, and it's wonderful. Patience also, because sometimes you think you know what's going on in a community or in an interaction on an internship such as that, or in any work when you're working with other cultures or other communities. But you don't always know what's going on, and it's really about being patient with yourself and being patient with others as you learn and as you work to just create those relationships and those positive experiences.
One of the themes that came out throughout this night was in building relationships and sharing, but it was said earlier though that it's actually not easy for a lot of organizations to do that with each other, because a lot of the time we're working with other communities, we're not ever working together. So I think that was something for me that I really received from this, and I'm not sure what people received from me. I think one thing that might be useful for audience members or others is to see the sort of like first step into becoming at the level where these exceptional panelists are at. You know, sometimes you have to do internships, and that's how you break into a lot of community and international development work.
Thank you, Asia, for sharing your story with us today. Now, here's Chris Cook with part one of Gifts of the Salmon People.
Rela Kastagla, Nuguam Ogwilakame, Gaitan Lacha Namgris, Lacha Quakakwag, Gaitan Lacha Elise. I just said that my name, I gave you my native name. I'm from a little village called Alert Bay, and my tribe is the Namgris tribe, and I'm from the Quakakwag Nation. People, the Quakakwag, believe that when twins are born, twins come from the Salmon people. So if a couple is gifted with twins, it's said that the Salmon people came and gifted those twins to that people. And the firstborn of the twins is considered the head of the salmon. The second of the twins is considered the tail. So when they have a salmon dance in our palach, our ceremonies or feasts, the oldest of the twin comes out first. The rest of the family goes in the middle because they're considered the body of that salmon. And the second born of the twins comes at the end because he completes or she completes that. Salmon is still the foundation of our feasts that we have. When we have our gatherings, we have barbecued salmon, we have smoked salmon, we have salmon eggs, we have, there's all those different. So the younger generation is raised in that. Because salmon is so important to our people and always has been, always will be, I grew up in a family that fished. They're fisher people. The men traditionally would go out and they would catch the fish, and the ladies were the expert fish cutters. So we were brought up in it. We had salmon. The salmon were cooked in many, many different ways so that they would have a different flavor. It was just, we were raised in it. So when we were little kids, we would be taught that dance, and we would be sent out and to do that dance. We have songs for everything. We have songs for when you pull bark off the trees. We have songs to help things grow. We have songs for all of those things. And it wasn't that long ago that it sounded absurd. Oh no, that's just hocus pocus. And some of the scientists are, they put in classical music into the greenhouse, and they say, wow, the plants grow better with music. It's like the tribal peoples were taught this. So there's wisdom in there, right? There is wisdom. The songs, the prayers, the lessons, especially about taking only what you need. That needs to be brought back for all of us. Doesn't matter what race we are, we all are affected by the cycles when they're out of balance. Mm-hmm. Our part when we harvest the salmon is that once we're done, we take the bones and it must go back into the water. Those bones find their way back home, the flesh is put back on the bones, and they start their life once more. That's what we were taught. Mm-hmm. So that's our tradition. Mm-hmm. We also, because we depend so heavily upon the salmon to live our lives and to survive and to thrive and celebrate, we also have songs, we have dances, we have prayers to honor that offering that the salmon people give to us.
Thanks to Chris Cook and Asia Sherlock for sharing their stories with us today. If you have a story about Pacific peoples that you'd like to share with us, please contact us at communications@pacificpeoplespartnership.org or leave a comment on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. Join us next week when Chris Cook will share part 2 of his Gifts of the Salmon People story, and when we have a profile of Pacific Peoples Partners Board of Director member Sean Burns. And remember, stay in touch with us by liking our Facebook page or subscribing to our YouTube channel, and check our website regularly. That's all for this week.